October 2015. Inside the United States intelligence community, something alarming has just happened. The personal email account of John Brennan, the director of the Central Intelligence Agency, has been breached. Investigators immediately assume the worst. A foreign intelligence service, a hostile nation-state, someone with powerful cyber warfare tools. But the truth is far stranger. The person inside the CIA director's account isn't a trained spy. He isn't even an adult. Thousands of miles away in England, a teenager is sitting in a bedroom staring at the inbox of one of the most powerful intelligence officials on Earth. He's only 15 years old, and before authorities could stop him, he would go on to target officials connected to the Federal Bureau of Investigation and leak data tied to the U.S. Department of Justice. His name is Kane Gamble, and what he did would trigger an international investigation. But to understand how a teenager could embarrass some of the most powerful institutions in the world, we have to go back to where it started. Before we dive deeper, subscribe to Geokosmos Docs for more real stories about hidden power, cyber warfare, and the unseen battles shaping the modern world. Because this story proves something unsettling. Sometimes the biggest security threat isn't a government. Sometimes it's just a kid with a phone. Kane Gamble lived in the quiet town of Coalville in Leicestershire, England. From the outside, his life looked ordinary. He was a teenager living with his parents and spending much of his free time online. But on the internet, Gamble had built a completely different identity. Inside underground forums and encrypted chat rooms, he used the alias Crackas. There he connected with a small group of politically motivated hackers. Eventually, Gamble became associated with a group called Crackas with Attitude, often shortened to CWA. The group wasn't focused on financial cybercrime. They wanted something else: attention, recognition, and the chance to embarrass powerful institutions they believed were abusing power. But Gamble didn't have advanced hacking tools. His most powerful weapon was something far simpler: human psychology. Like many teenagers fascinated with technology, Kane Gamble began exploring hacking communities out of curiosity: forums, chat rooms, online subcultures where young programmers and hackers shared knowledge. Then global events began shaping the conversations inside those communities. In 2013, intelligence contractor Edward Snowden revealed secret surveillance programs run by the National Security Agency. The revelations shocked the world. Inside online hacker spaces, they sparked anger and debate. Some believed intelligence agencies had gone too far. Others believed exposing them was justified. For young hackers like Gamble, these discussions helped shape a worldview. Governments were powerful, but they were not invincible. And if someone was clever enough, they could prove it. Unlike the hackers portrayed in movies, Gamble didn't rely on complex computer exploits. Instead, he mastered something known as social engineering. Social engineering is psychological manipulation. Instead of hacking machines, attackers trick people into giving them access. The method often begins with research, finding personal phone numbers, email addresses, information posted publicly online. Then comes the impersonation, calling customer service and pretending to be the account owner, convincing support staff to reset passwords or grant access. If the employee believes the story, the hacker gains control. And Kane Gamble became very good at it. Soon he began setting his sights on bigger targets. By 2015, Gamble and members of Crackas with Attitude had become increasingly focused on political targets. Many were angry about U.S. foreign policy in the Middle East, particularly military involvement in Iraq and Afghanistan. Inside group chats, the idea began circulating: if you want to expose power, target the people at the top. And that's when Kane Gamble began researching one of the most powerful intelligence officials in the world, John Brennan, the director of the Central Intelligence Agency. Instead of trying to break into CIA servers directly, Gamble targeted something much easier: Brennan's personal email account. Using social engineering tactics, he convinced telecommunications support staff to reset credentials linked to Brennan's account. Soon, the CIA director's inbox was no longer private. Inside were sensitive documents, including security clearance forms used by intelligence personnel. Forms containing deeply personal information: addresses, financial details, background investigation records. The breach caused major concern within U.S. intelligence circles, but Gamble didn't stop there. Encouraged by his success, he expanded his targets. Soon he began going after other high-ranking officials, including James Clapper, the former Director of National Intelligence, and Jed Johnson, head of the U.S. Department of Homeland Security. Through similar impersonation tactics, Gamble accessed personal contact information connected to these officials. At one point, he even gained control of internet-connected devices inside Johnson's home. Then the attacks crossed a disturbing line. Gamble called Johnson's home phone. When Johnson wasn't there, he left a voicemail for Johnson's wife. A chilling message. "Hi, Spooky. Am I scaring you?" Investigators later described the harassment as deeply troubling, but the most damaging breach was still coming. Through compromised accounts connected to the U.S. Department of Justice, Gamble and members of Crackas with Attitude obtained something extremely sensitive: a massive employee directory. Nearly 20,000 individuals connected to the Federal Bureau of Investigation: agents, analysts, support staff, people whose identities were never meant to be public. Then the group made a decision that would turn the incident into an international scandal. They released the list online. Within hours, the information spread across the internet and eventually appeared on WikiLeaks. Alongside the leak was a message: "This is for Palestine." For U.S. intelligence agencies, the embarrassment was enormous, and by now investigators in both the United States and the United Kingdom were racing to identify the people responsible. Success had made Gamble confident, too confident. Online, he began bragging about the hacks, posting screenshots, taunting authorities. But every digital action leaves traces. Investigators began analyzing communication logs, IP addresses, and forum activity. Slowly, the digital trail began pointing to one location: a house in Coalville, England. In early 2016, officers from the National Crime Agency arrived at the home. Computers were seized, hard drives were confiscated, and Kane Gamble was arrested. The teenager who had infiltrated the personal accounts of top U.S. intelligence officials was now facing serious criminal charges. In 2018, Gamble appeared before a judge at the Old Bailey. By then he was 18 years old. Prosecutors described his actions as a campaign of politically motivated cyber attacks. His defense argued he had been young, naive, and influenced by online communities. They also explained he was on the autism spectrum, but the judge ruled the crimes were serious. Kane Gamble was sentenced to 2 years in a youth detention center. His computers were confiscated, and the hacking campaign that had embarrassed multiple intelligence agencies finally came to an end. The director of the Central Intelligence Agency, personnel connected to the Federal Bureau of Investigation, data originating from the U.S. Department of Justice, all compromised, not by a sophisticated cyber warfare unit, but by a teenager sitting in a bedroom in England. It's a story that leaves behind a troubling question. If a 15-year-old could cause this much damage using nothing more than social engineering, what could a professional cyber criminal accomplish? If you enjoy stories about intelligence, cyber warfare, and hidden history, subscribe to Geokosmos Docs, because the next story might be even more unbelievable, and it might already be happening.